Good afternoon. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jill and I've been invited along this afternoon. I really want to find out about how do people living with disabilities, epilepsy, autism or any type of condition, how it affects their daily life.
Hello, my name's Julie. I do have epilepsy and I've had the condition for about 40 years now.
Hello, my name is Fred Kiteren. I have epilepsy since the year 2011. I run an organization that is called Kiteren Epilepsy Foundation. Thank you so much.
Hi Fred, it's lovely that you could join us. So can you actually start? Whereabouts in Kenya do you live?
I live some 30 kilometers from the capital city.
Have we lost Fred now?
Oh, we lost Fred.
That's fine.
We're going back.
Okay.
And that's where we run our organization.
Yes. So the Kisaram Epilepsy Foundation, isn't it? That's what you set up. In what
Yes.
year? What year? How long?
It was set up in 12th December 2016.
And Fred, can we ask, do you have epilepsy yourself?
Yes, I have epilepsy myself.
Okay.
Since the year 2011 while I was working in Iraq. That's when I started getting the problems, and it was when I was diagnosed to have epilepsy.
And how was it diagnosed as epilepsy?
The first time they did a CT scan, then they did an MRI scan, and eventually an EEG is the one that was able to detect my epilepsy.
Yeah.
So I believe, yes, you said you were working out in Iraq, and which is a pretty hot country, isn't it? So what were you doing while you were working? And
I was working as a pastry chef, and I was working with British Petroleum, and from there it is when now I started experiencing the seizures and all that, until now I was diagnosed.
And what was their first reaction when you started having these dizziness or these spells? How did they relate? How did they behave towards you, your employer?
First of all, they were shocked, and I was also shocked. So I couldn't believe, because all those years I was living, it came while I was 28 years. So I never accepted the fact. But when I came home and I went to the hospital, it is when now that I realized now I am sick. I have to live a clean life.
Yeah. How did your family react when you got the diagnosis of epilepsy?
My mother, she's a very prayerful lady. She took it with a lot of grief, because at that time I was really earning a lot of money in Iraq. So you can imagine now you are again jobless. So people were shocked, but my aunts were really saying that I have demons, or people were possessing me with demons. So it was a lot of shenanigans.
So okay, I heard you say possessing demons. So is that right? Is that what people thought, that you were possessed in some way?
Yes, a lot of people here still think that if you have epilepsy, you are either with demons or somebody bewitched you. So there's a very big misconception here.
And you said you were jobless, so that's obviously BP said, okay, we don't need you anymore, somehow.
No. When I came home, I took my drugs and I went still to work in Iraq. But it reached a time now I had to, because of the heat, and also because I also wanted to do something else, because Iraq is a very dangerous place.
Yes.
And you are sick.
No, I was going to say, so it's British Petroleum then were actually very supportive towards you. Being an international company, they would have heard about epilepsy, I would have imagined, wouldn't they?
Yes.
And what about attitudes in general in Kenya? How are they? How would you describe them?
In Kenya, still people with epilepsy are living a very, very bad life, because number one, lack of drugs, lack of acceptance. The family members don't accept that maybe you are sick or you have been diagnosed. some say you are bewitched and you are of no use. So people with epilepsy really suffer, and some of them also go into depression.
Well, I suppose because it's a hidden condition, isn't it? Because from the outside, everybody looks perfectly normal. And that's
Yes.
probably
Thank you for
why,
that.
isn't it? To understand. and how, like, people like myself who, well, touch wood, you know, I'm very lucky. I don't suffer with any condition. But it's really good to understand how we can help people who, when you have an epileptic seizure and things like this.
Yes.
And that's
It is-
sorry, go on, Fred.
Go on, Fred.
it is important always to tell people or to teach someone about the first aid basics. Like myself, whenever I go, the first thing I tell someone, I have epilepsy, because I can have a fit somewhere. So it is important to accept first.
And what type of epilepsy do you have?
I have focal.
The one thing in the UK that people still don't understand is that there are 43 or thereabouts types of seizure. Is
Wow.
that
So, yeah.
Is that the same in Kenya? People just don't understand how many different forms that epilepsy can take.
At least in Britain, I think your healthcare system is a bit better. Here there are some people who even just have a seizure, and when they go to the doctor, instead of the doctor diagnosing, putting maybe someone in for EEG or for MRI, they just give you the phenobab bottles. You know, that one you're not even helping your patient to see what type of seizure he has.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah.
I can generally say here we have a lot of misconceptions, and even the doctors, we only have 10 epidemiologists in Kenya.
Well, yes, that's quite limiting.
Yeah.
And for the drugs itself, are they expensive or are they handed out?
The drugs are very expensive because these drugs you have to take them day to day. So, and in Kenya, more than 3/4 of the people earn less than $1. So you could imagine a lot of people don't even have access to eating, leave alone taking the meds.
Yes.
We've got not a question, but we've got. You can see the questions on there. If you want to tell people that you'll see the questions, we've got Ali saying hello so far.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put my glasses on. Right, we have Ali actually saying just hello for the meantime. So Ali, if you do have a question, yes, please feel free to
send
join
it in.
That would be lovely. That's perfect. Thank you.
Where's he from?
Don't know.
America.
Anyway, out of interest, let's go back. So yes, we were talking about, weren't we? The cost. It's very difficult in Kenya. So really, it's to an elite group of people. So that's not fair, is it? To a lot of the people.
Yeah, it is very unfair, and it is the main reason why I decided to help and start my organization, because you will find that a lot of people, even eating becomes a problem, or even accessing that basic drug. Because if someone with epilepsy doesn't have drugs, his chances of survival surely are so minimal.
Yes. But what I'm sorry to interrupt. I knew you were going to say something that you, but I like to interrupt.
I'll wait.
You. I like to interrupt. But what I'd like to, somebody who if I see anybody having an epileptic fit or a seizure, what would be best for the general public? What can you advise us to do to help you?
I would say the first thing that you should do is, number one, you should, where he has fallen down, it is important first to pick something that is dangerous away from him. You know, maybe he might fall from water, or maybe he's fallen down and there is dangerous stuff away, like stones. So it is important to remove him. And also you can be able to unloosen his clothes.
Yeah. Just to make them feel safe.
Then the next, so that he can start breathing.
Good, lovely.
Then the next thing, you can put him in a recovery position.
I belong to the West London branch of Epilepsy Action, which is a charity that covers the whole of the UK. Your society has how many members? Is it the same sort of thing? Does it affiliate to a national charity?
My organization has over 200 members. We have in Kenya, I think at the moment we have like 10 organizations that deal with
Okay.
epilepsy.
Okay.
But we have the board that is called the National Epilepsy Coordination Committee, and my organization is a part of the committee. Yeah. Yes.
Do you want to ask anything about the? I mean, are we similar in the way that our branch and your society works? If you want to ask me any questions about that, just go ahead.
Yeah. So I could ask you. So how expensive are your drugs?
Okay, I don't know, because we're lucky in that the NHS actually provides them to us. So we're very different in that respect. For free, yeah.
For free, yes.
Yeah.
So.
Here in our country, the National Hospital Insurance doesn't cover epilepsy. So people with epilepsy really have a long way to go, and it is very, very sad.
It's a big challenge then, isn't it, to live with epilepsy if you don't have the money to buy the drugs, really.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a very, very big challenge, especially if the first problem we have here is your family. If your family doesn't accept you, you'll be able to really have a big hard life. Like 2 months ago, we had a lady that had epilepsy, and she was raped by more than 5 people. And it is even in my website. You can see it. We took her to hospital for more than 2 weeks, and her family members never came to see her.
Oh, that's sad.
So.
Yeah.
So really the question is, it's all about down to educating people. But then again, the governments, even in England, I think we're better here, but to educate through the schools and the young people so they can learn and pass it through to the generations. But that's a big step.
Yeah. Does your government have any campaigns on the go?
I think our government has not done a lot about non-communicable disease, because if they could have really speared ahead this education about epilepsy, going to schools, teaching the small boys about epilepsy, even when the boys are getting old, they will know what is epilepsy and how to cope with someone who has epilepsy.
Yeah.
Because actually, from somebody like me, as Julie mentioned earlier, there were 42 different types of epilepsy, but I've read that they're equally then grouped into 7 categories, which I didn't know. I just assumed it was just from one part of the brain. So some can be quite severe, and some can be quite very mild.
Some, because of the 42 types, some can be, you can even be like blinking like this and you're having a seizure.
Yeah.
So there are different types. And each day research is being done on how to handle best someone who has epilepsy.
Yeah. But Julie, the organisation that you chair in Ealing, let's go back to you. How many people in that group that you have?
We have up to 40 people in the group, and that's just one branch.
Yes,
well, I think there are probably, like yourself, we have actually maybe 150 members. I don't know, because I'm not in charge of membership. But when we come to a meeting, and that's once a month, it's about 40 people. How often does your society meet?
We do meet once in a month.
Okay.
We do meet once in
So similar then.
Deliberate on our issues and see if because we live nearby.
Okay.
It's not very far. To have meetings and to try to encourage one another, to see maybe what we can do best as an organization, and also to give hope to the members who have epilepsy. And can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do people with epilepsy in your place have jobs?
Yes. Yes. If they can. I mean, there are people with severe epilepsy who can't work. But a lot of people just go about their business as other people do. Yeah.
So they can't be fired even if they have a seizure maybe in the office?
Sorry, so could you repeat that?
They can't be fired even if they have a
Absolutely,
seizure?
absolutely not. No.
Well, I can say here in my country, a lot of people who have epilepsy, if maybe a company knows that you have epilepsy and let's say you have a seizure, direct, you are going home. So
Going home and not coming back? Is that what you mean? Going home all over?
Yes.
Actually,
They will file because they don't want to take the blame, or they will say. Mostly people with epilepsy, they really have a hard life. From
yeah,
being
it
raped,
sounds like it.
being fired.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And then I guess it can go, and you mentioned depression, or you did, Fred, didn't you, like depression?
Yeah.
But it can become a loss of self-esteem, isn't it? Anxiety,
Yes.
and how you're perceived in the public. But it's up to the person with epilepsy. I guess if you get the drugs, it is controllable, isn't it? And if they work,
For some people,
for some, they do work, and then that maybe they can start rebuilding their life.
Yes, like myself, after now I started taking the medicine, I live a comfortable life. I have a wife, but before I accept, because you can be taking the meds that you have not accepted. Accepted is the first healing process.
Of
Yes,
course.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's very important.
Yes.
We had a speaker at the last branch meeting who was talking about his company's attitude towards him having a seizure. And if he has a seizure, they send him home and insist that he has 3 days off to relax, and then he goes back to work. I think companies are becoming a little bit more switched on to the fact that, to the idea that people need to rest, but they're absolutely productive. Really productive, or as productive as the next person.
I think if somebody who has epilepsy in Kenya, if he comes to UK, he'll say he's coming to heaven, because in Kenya there are maybe 5 companies, or maybe 3, because the rest they will just fire you home.
Yeah, that's a little bit sad, isn't it?
But I would imagine your foundation, Fred, and your support group that you run,
Yeah.
Julia, is very good for people with epilepsy to just come forward and maybe feel safe, so they can help move on in the right direction if they're not certain. It's particularly if they're after their first seizure, I would imagine is the worst, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that is very true. After the first season, it becomes stressful, and what we do as an organization, we do a lot of counseling to our members, and try to tell them that, hey, I know you have epilepsy, but you can have a good life.
Good,
And
yes,
again,
yeah.
And again, what we do, we also empower our members by teaching them basic skills. Like, if now you have epilepsy, you cannot drive.
No,
yes,
no,
yeah, of course, yeah.
So what you do, we try to teach them on how best to do a positive life. And how about in your place?
In the support group, I think that's what people find most strength, the biggest strength, that they can all chat to each other, and it's the first time that they've met a whole bunch of people who have the same problem as themselves. And yes, we do swap information, like the driving that you were just talking about. And people talk about drugs and that sort of thing. But of course, what works for one person doesn't work for the next person. Yeah.
That is very, very
It's like everything, isn't it? With any condition as well. But I think.
What is the number of the people who have epilepsy in Britain?
It's 1 in 100 people. That's what. Yeah.
Yes,
In
yeah.
Kenya, more than 1.2 million people who suffer from epilepsy, and only 20% of us can access the anti-epileptic drugs. So, which means we are 200,000. The rest of the 800,000,
I just have to work it out, really, and that can be dangerous then, can't it, surely, if you don't have the drugs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah.
Eventually, I mean, and is there a progression? Would they get worse if they're not controlled with the drug? What do you think?
I'm not sure that they actually get worse.
No.
I'm not sure about that, but it's just no chance there to be controlled.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I know.
Awful.
Once you are living in that state, you are in this state of despair, because number one, nobody cares about you. Your family members don't care. You don't have money to go to the hospital, so you're just living a day at a time. When your time comes to die, you die. When you don't die, you just live a day at a time. So
We
it's
must,
very,
yeah.
I can say that it is very sad. It is very, very sad here in Kenya. And but I thank God because we are progressing. As the day goes by, we are getting other
Yeah,
organizations
good.
that come to join us to fight this fight.
Fabulous. What
That's
about
great.
what about children's attitude to epilepsy? What do young people who perhaps haven't seen or haven't really understood? Obviously, they wouldn't have understood when they're very little. What do they think?
I have one of our members who is a child, and she has epilepsy. When she had epilepsy, all the people in her class never came to sit with her
Oh, yeah.
because they were told that if you have epilepsy, it is contagious.
Oh,
yeah.
no. That's terrible, isn't it?
And yet, children can be the most accepting of,
Or the most cruel.
yeah,
sometimes.
there is that as
You
well.
know.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
truth in both.
Yes, from
yeah.
both.
I have 2 children, and
Yes.
from a very, very, very young age, they saw me having They saw me having seizures. Now
Okay.
they're 27 and 29, and
Okay.
for them, it's just not a big deal. It really isn't.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
because they've seen it growing as they grew up, and they'll talk to anybody. They'll say, "Oh, my mum has epilepsy." They're not at all bothered. Well, they care, but they're not bothered about. They don't have the stigma. Don't carry the stigma
No.
that other people do. So I think it would be very important here to get to young people. Do you feel the same?
Yes, I feel the same. That is why my organization is really focused a lot with the young kids, because what we do, we go to schools and focus on the young children and teach them about epilepsy. We had a case whereby we went to another school, and one of the schools, one of the parents never told the daughter that the brother has epilepsy. So when we went to the school and taught about epilepsy, the causes, the triggers, and the symptoms, so the girl in the evening told the father, "You never told me my brother has epilepsy."
So, I don't know why I'm laughing, really.
Well,
I just
think, yeah,
it's just ironic. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Sometimes it seems a bit of a lost cause, doesn't it? Trying to stamp out the stigma. But I don't think it is a lost cause. You just got to keep trying.
I think with anything, I mean, autism or
So, and,
people with diabetes, it's similar.
Yes. And yourself, do you cook in the house, and are you allowed to drive?
Not allowed to drive until, I can't remember now. Is it
I
Two-
did. Well, I did.
Years.
2
2
years
years,
free?
okay.
Completely to.
I did read one story of one young lady in England who didn't drive for 1 year, but after a year she was allowed to drive,
Yeah.
and she had
So
children.
what is the threshold? What is the threshold for you to drive?
You have to be free of seizures. If you only have nighttime seizures, I believe that's a year. But if it's daytime seizures, 2 years. But yes, I cook in the house. Yeah, as far as cooking is concerned. Sorry.
And how do the government and the epilepsy organization check in balance? Because there are some people, maybe they can have epilepsy and they still want to drive.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything is there any coordination? Like in our country, we don't have that.
There have been stories in the press where people have had accidents because they drove too quickly. Yeah. But it's difficult to get to have those checks and balances in place if somebody is adamant that they haven't had a seizure for 2 years. I mean, how are you going to prove that they have?
True.
Yeah.
And our teacher, can you please tell us how do you think epilepsy is? What have you seen so far in your teaching career?
I've just known of 2 children ever in my whole career to have had epilepsy, but it was, I don't know, we weren't told which type of epilepsy, but we were just given basic instructions on what to do and to help them. And actually it was just to put them into a recovery, make sure they were comfortable, safe, which is what you've mentioned before, a quiet place, and just stay with them and let them recover, and eventually they would return to normal, their breathing.
Wow.
it was as if they almost just went away for a short moment and just gradually came back to us.
Yeah.
But we were never told that it wasn't severe enough to go and run and think, oh my goodness, what's happening? You know, because a lot of people out there in the public, if it was in the street, they probably actually would just call an ambulance.
Actually, one of the members, sorry to interrupt, one of the members of our branch is a teacher and she has epilepsy. Yeah, but the pupils in her class sort of know what to do. They're not, you know, again, it's not a big deal. And she's a PE teacher.
I have a friend of mine who has epilepsy, and he's an insurance broker. So there was a time that he had a very bad fit in town. Can you imagine when he fell down, he stole his mobile phone and his money?
That's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are a lot of comments we could make about that, but we won't.
It is very sad until he had to quit that job and started another job because he said, I can die in town.
Okay, actually on that note, we're going to really start to just bring this to a close now.
Yeah.
But I think it's been quite very useful for me to listen to both of you. It's very interesting, and I really think even in England it needs to have more publicity.
Oh yes.
Advertising on the
Totally
television.
agree with that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
With all these disabilities or conditions.
And I wish you luck. The very best of luck with your society. I think it sounds like you're doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fred, for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye.
I also wish to invite you to my organization. You can come to volunteer.
Good, we will.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Yeah.
We should, yes, we should. One day, hopefully.
Yes.
All the best.
Take care.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Fred.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Okay.
Afrobeat, it's Afro music. Pass me the mic. I'm from Africa.
Very enlightening.
I'm from
It was.
Africa.